management, and advertisers.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome, PTL Nation. Yes, it is time for Pushing the Limits. Thank you so much for being here. What day is it today? Yes, it's Wednesday. Sometimes I lose track of time. You could be watching, listening on the Occupy Democrats Network. Could be the Washington Press Network. Of course, the AM/FM dial, KSHP. And yes, we are also everywhere. Everywhere possibly you could imagine, TikTok, Twitch, you name it, we are on it, and we appreciate you being a part of the program. We're also, as we speak right now, on the YouTube Super Chat, so your questions and comments will be read live on the air. Also, check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. I will also tell you that we have Ron Filipkowski from Midas Touch that's going to be joining us here in just a few minutes, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. And the South African president meeting with Donald Trump earlier today. And we're going to get to all that and all the biggest news of the day. And I figured to start the show, what better person to talk to? And really anybody from Midas Touch, but Ron, always one of my favorites. He joined us right now live on the show. Ron, it is great to see you as always, my friend. How are you?
Good. What a week. I'm worn out. I was just joking to my Substack readers that I'm pretty much been at my desk since Sunday morning with a couple of bathroom breaks. This administration is killing me. I mean, it's like between this and Congress, because I mean, Congress, especially Mike Johnson, I mean, he gives these people like they work like 3 days a month. He gives them like weeks off where nothing happens. And then they come back together like they did this week. And it's like they go all night. I mean, they started at 1 o'clock in the morning last night with the Rules Committee. I think they're still going.
Yeah, I believe they are. And do you think this bill is actually going to get passed, this beautiful bill?
You know, I mean, you got these two factions going at it over multiple issues, the Freedom Caucus, and then I would call them the SALT Caucus, which is the Republicans from blue states, you know, that represent districts and that are swing districts and Democratic states. They're going at it over multiple issues, Medicaid cuts, the SALT issue, which is basically like Nevada. You're in Nevada, right?
Yes.
You don't pay state income taxes because you have all the taxes from gambling, right? Same thing with like Florida. They don't pay state income taxes because they get all the tourism tax.
Right.
So, but northern states, industrial states and stuff, they have state income taxes. And so, you know, that's the issue is those states are able to deduct their state income taxes from their federal income taxes because it's not income, it's money you're sending to the state. So that's a big bone of contention between the two groups that they're fighting with each other. So ultimately, like, I think at this point, Trump doesn't care. He just wants to declare victory. And so he's twisting arms really hard. But, you know, he promised during the campaign, what was odd was when he went to New York and campaigned in Long Island and had a rally, he promised to repeal the SALT tax cap, which is exactly what these SALT people want. And now he's saying he doesn't want to do it. He's reneged on that campaign promise, although nobody's really talked about that.
Ron, what do you make of the fact that, you know, he's saying how this will save us money, right? Conserving money. And yet, correct me if I'm wrong, over the course of the next 1 to 2 years, this would put us $5 or $6 trillion more in debt.
Yeah, there's no honest person that will agree with that, including Republicans. I mean, there's a small handful of Republicans in Congress that are honest about this. And most of them are the most conservative right-wingers in Congress. Thomas Massey, Chip Roy, Andy Harris, the Freedom Caucus chair. They're all saying that what they are most upset about with the current bill is the fact that it explodes the deficit, that it adds $5 trillion in new debt over the next 2 years, up to $10 trillion over the next 10 years. So they are freely admitting that it adds debt. Now, Trump, who's a habitual liar, and Mike Johnson will not admit that, but the Congressional Budget Office says it, which is nonpartisan. Economists say it. Wall Street says it. The bond market is saying it. Because that's the reason, if you want to know why mortgage interest rates just went over 7%, this is the reason. Because the bond market is looking at this bill and saying not only is this going to continue to increase our debt, which is already huge, it is going to dramatically increase it with all this new spending. I mean, Trump just unveiled a new thing yesterday, the Golden Dome missile defense shield,
Right.
which, he ridiculously claimed, oh, this is only going to cost like 145 billion. Every expert who has studied this says minimum 500 billion, minimum. So we just added that. He's got 150 billion new and increased defense spending. He's got another 65 billion more money for deportations and DHS, more border patrol agents.
Yeah.
So look, Trump has never had a problem with debt in his whole life, whether in business or in government. He exploded the deficit last time he was president. He's going to do it even worse this time.
I tend to agree with you. If you're just joining us, Ron Filipkowski from Midas Touch. Ron, what do you make of this morning meeting with the South African president, where the South African president asked him, makes kind of a joke about, oh, I can't give you a jet. And then you have a member of the media who's a very good distinguished journalist who asked him about this jet, and Donald Trump had a hissy fit. He just lost it. What do you make of this?
Yeah, that was Peter Alexander from NBC.
Right.
So yeah, here's the thing. When they continue to hold these meetings with foreign leaders in public and invite the press in, as they're also doing with cabinet meetings, which no president has ever done this before,
Right.
But for Trump, everything is like a reality show. It's a reality show government. So the cabinet meetings are not really cabinet meetings where they're sitting
Right.
around talking about things. They're praise sessions. Same thing with these. So yeah, the South African leaders here got the full Zelensky treatment today, where they got berated by Trump for a variety of different issues. And, Trump got mad because the reason why Alexander asked the question is because the news broke just today that the Air Force has officially accepted the jet. And so he wanted to follow up on that. But, this is one issue that Trump does not want to talk about. And the reason is because it polls horrendously. The polling on this jet issue, it's his number one worst issue right now among polls. Even his own supporters don't like it. Even Laura Loomer trashed him over the jet. So, he doesn't want to talk about the jet. He wants the jet very badly, but he doesn't want to talk about it. So when this gets brought up in front of the international press, as Trump gets extremely upset because he can't defend it.
Ron, do you agree with me that it seems like every single time in the media where Donald Trump is challenged, he'll attempt to attack the credibility of the network or the journalist? What a stupid question. And, if somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend asks a question, usually the first person to ask a question, like what happened again today, every single time somebody challenges Trump, which what I believe to be is a good question, a credible question from a credible journalist, he always goes on the offensive trying to attack.
Yeah, so he attacks people who can't fight back. That's what bullies do. And so he knows that people who work for these big media outlets can't fight back. When he can insult them, he can call them names, he can berate them. And if they return fire, if Alexander had came back at Trump and said, well, I think you're a terrible president. You say I'm a terrible journalist. I think you're a terrible. Alexander gets fired. He's fired. So Trump knows this. He knows that they can't respond. It's the same thing with Zelensky. The reason why they berated Zelensky is because they know that Zelensky desperately needs the United States, has to have assistance. So they know that they can sit there and berate him and belittle him all they want, and he can't really respond in kind. So that's what Trump does. He bullies the powerless. But when he ever gets confronted by someone who's a peer of his, he doesn't do that. He's very polite. He's very respectful. He's somewhat deferential. But yeah, when he is faced with somebody he doesn't like who can't fight back, that's when he goes into attack mode.
I'm wondering, Ron, what do you make of the question that was asked about, listen, you're not allowing refugees, for lack of a better term, that are brown, right? I mean, I know that's not what the journalist asked, but let's be honest, that's what's going on here. But, if you have 10 refugees that happen to be 100% white, why are you not treating these other refugees the same way? And then he doesn't answer the question and he goes on the offensive again. What do you make of that moment today?
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, any objective criteria that you define for asylum, there are many other groups that meet that criteria ahead of white South Africans. So if your criteria is, well, people that have been murdered and robbed, well, you know what? We have like a couple of million people that are in the United States right now seeking asylum who were victims of those kind of crimes in the countries that they came from. Obviously, you know, they're subject to oppression. So the bottom line is this is not based on anything objective. This is not based on the fact that white South Africans are being persecuted worse than other minority groups in other countries around the world, because that is, in fact, objectively not the case. The bottom line is this: they're white. They're white. And, you know, for all the people that Trump is talking about deporting, you don't see white people getting put on planes. We have tons of white immigrants from Europe, especially Ukraine, here in the United States right now, with asylum applications pending, citizenship applications pending. None of them are being deported. So this is a racial thing. It has nothing to do with genocide, crime. Yes, you know, there's crime in South Africa. South Africa is a violent country with a high crime rate. It's been that way for about 70 years. Okay. But it's not any worse than a lot of other places where asylum seekers are coming from. The only difference is this is a white minority in a black majority country. That is the only difference.
Ron, I'm wondering, because I think we have the same opinion when it comes to this James Comey stuff with the 8647. I think he's probably lying, and I don't buy his story. With that being said, you have a lot of Republicans who said 8646. And yet nobody seemed to have a problem with that. I had Ed Krasenstein on the show yesterday. And, as you know, I believe you do, that Ed, got a visit from the Secret Service. Absolutely absurd and ridiculous. What do you make of this 8647 controversy?
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. I mean, I'm no fan of James Comey. I think he's kind of a weasel, And look, this is a guy who he posted seashells on his Instagram page. Now, my first question when I first saw this was from the right wingers going viral was, who the hell is following James Comey on Instagram? Like, he's going to have like 9 people on following him. Who the hell is following? So the fact that, of course, their take was that Comey, who hasn't been in government for like 9 years, controls some kind of sleeper cells out there of assassins. And this was his signal to them. He was going to post 8647 seashells to the assassin sleeper cells across the United States and activate them to go after Trump. I mean, that's what they were saying. I mean, which is, of course, utterly preposterous. 86 can mean a lot of different things. I think to anyone who's in the restaurant industry where the term is most used, knows that it means you're out of something. You're out. Cancel it from the menu. Take it off the menu because we're out. We're out of 86 the steak. And I think that's what he was saying was, hey, we need to get rid of Trump. We're done with Trump. We're tired of Trump. Get him out of here, impeach him, vote him out. Or he's going to leave at the end of his term. But I think that clearly Comey was not calling on people to assassinate Trump. But the ridiculous part of it is the fake outrage on the right. They know full well that he was not saying that. But they want the clicks. They want the eyeballs. They want the views. And so they got to whip up another fake controversy, and then they're on to the next one the following day.
Yeah. I'm wondering, you've covered Kristi Noem to a T as far as the cosplaying and her weird behavior. And it seemed like yesterday, under oath, she couldn't even give a definition of what habeas corpus is. I'm wondering, what do you make of that?
Yeah. So look, I'm a lawyer for 30 years. Obviously, I know what that is, but I recognize that there are some, lay people on the street who may not know what that term means, even though it is the central bedrock foundational principle of the United States legal system, which is why it's one of the few things that's actually written into the Constitution, habeas corpus. And basically what it means in Latin is produce the body. Meaning that the government cannot seize any human being, citizen or otherwise, and put them in a cell or disappear them without giving them a court hearing, doing it out in the open, notifying the public that we have just arrested this person. Here is why. We have just detained this person. Here is why. Here's a list of the allegations. That's what habeas corpus is. So when you suspend habeas corpus, which it says in the Constitution you can do in times of national emergency, such as a civil war or an insurrection, where you suspend the writ of habeas corpus, meaning that you don't have to give somebody a court date if you detain them. This is an emergency situation, which we have only done a handful of times in our history. That even though the layperson might not understand all of that, that's in the Constitution, the head of the Department of Homeland Security has to know it, and has to know it particularly a week after the policy director of the White House, who is Stephen Miller, threatened to suspend it. So the fact that she would go in front of Congress and have absolutely no idea what habeas corpus is, it shows you the clown show because one after another, then there was like 6 committee hearings yesterday. So you had her not knowing what habeas corpus is. You have RFK saying he had no idea that all these funds and scientists were cut that were studying ALS and other diseases. You had the Billy Long, the auctioneer, who they've nominated for IRS commissioner, who never graduated from college, who auctioned off cars and cattle in the Ozark Mountains of Missouri, who's now going to be put in the IRS. He has no idea that the law says that the president cannot direct the IRS commissioner to audit people. So it was just one cabinet official after another who doesn't know the first thing about the agency that they're in charge of.
Mesmerizing. Question about an exchange with Jasmine Crockett yesterday. I wanted to get your I think it might have been this morning, where Crockett's getting into it with a MAGA Republican about what due process is in the Constitution. And in the Constitution, as you know, when it comes to due process, it says person. It doesn't say documented or undocumented. Yet Republicans seem to be making the argument that, well, wait a second, if you're an undocumented immigrant, that means you don't have the right to due process. And Jasmine Crockett is literally repeating word for word what it says in the Constitution. Why is this even a debate, Ron?
It's in the Constitution twice. It's in the 5th Amendment and the 14th Amendment. So again, one of the most due process just means like, you can't have the government deprive you of your liberty or your property without giving you an opportunity to be heard in court. And what they're saying is, what they're arguing is, for the first time in American history, contrary to all U.S. Supreme Court precedent, that doesn't apply to somebody visiting the country. So a foreign student who comes here, who's paying $30,000 to attend a school in the United States, and they're going to college, can't, for example, write an editorial for the school newspaper opposing Israel's invasion of Gaza, or else they get locked up for a month, which is exactly what happened to the student from Turkey. She wrote an op-ed. She didn't call for violence. She didn't burn down any buildings. She didn't threaten any other students. And they revoked her student visa and locked her up in order to deport her when she's in the middle of her semester paying tuition. So that's the argument, that these due process laws do not apply to foreign visitors. So if you come here and you're visiting here, or you're working here and you're not a citizen, you don't have any rights, and the government can do whatever they want to you. That's what the current Republican Party stands for.
Absolutely and utterly ridiculous. And I'm with you, Ron. What do you got working on for your Substack today that you're going to be releasing out?
Man, so I'm taking a break, man. It was
a break. What a slacker you are, Ron.
3 days straight. I mean, like, I was so tired last night, just writing about all this stuff because, like I said, the way that the Trump administration and Mike Johnson does their schedule, it's just brutal.
Yeah.
Long periods of nothing happening and then just all kinds of mania. So, I mean, I'm probably going to try and untangle this South African visit here. Yeah. Although, wading into the history of South Africa, particularly the racial component and apartheid and all that, is a quagmire. I've done it before. Yeah. And it's a long, twisted history. So I kind of hesitate to even go in that, because Trump claimed today that he was showing the South African president this all these crosses. It's a memorial. He claimed it was a mass grave site for white farmers. It's not. There's no graves there. It's just crosses, like you see, like crosses on the side of the road to commemorate somebody died there. That's kind of what it's a white farmer that made this memorial. So I'm thinking about trying to untangle that. But again, I can tell you, anytime you wade into any South African politics, it's a messy situation.
Ron, do you struggle mentally having to cover the? I know it's your job and you do a great job at it, but do you struggle mentally sometimes having to keep up with the Trump administration and every single day? I mean, I do. That's why I'm asking you. I do. I mean, you guys do a great job at Midas Touch, but do you ever say to yourself, man, it is really tough mentally covering this guy every single day in his administration?
Yeah, I think it's like there's very, very, very small number of people in journalism who can do it. Because, I think the fact that I was a criminal lawyer for so long and dealt with so many mentally ill, crazy people and so many stressful situations day after day in courtrooms is what has really helped me prepare me to be able to do it, to have a very thick skin, a big bullshit detector. People, I went 3 decades where people lied to me every day. I was a criminal lawyer. You're surrounded by people who lie constantly. So that has prepared me very well to cover the Trump administration for sure. But I will say, I was joking with the guys the other day. I'm like, the biggest relief has been not having to defend Biden for me, because I used to have to divide my time between covering Trump and then having to play defense against stuff that the Biden administration was doing and trying to defend them from attacks. But now I'm kind of been liberated by not having to do the second part until this week with the Tapper book, which now, I find myself back in that world again, where I'm having to spend all this time on Biden stuff, which is utterly ridiculous because it's a media created story that the American public simply doesn't care about, but I still got to deal with it.
You still have to deal with it. We both have to deal with it every day in this administration, at least for the next 3.5+ years. Ron, you guys do such a great job at Midas Touch. Please keep up the great work, my friend. We will catch up with you next week. Get some rest, okay? Get some rest.
Okay. All right.
Take care, Ron. We appreciate you. Ron Filipkowski, everybody from Midas Touch, one of the best in the business. I really love Ron. As I say that every single time he comes on this show. They're so great at Midas Touch, and Ron's my favorite over there. There's a lot of good people over there. I love Adam Mockler, too. The Midas Touch brothers, they're great. So we appreciate Ron, and we certainly appreciate him for joining us. So the South African president and his delegation met in the Oval Office today for a conversation with our own president, Donald Trump. And they seem to be focused on economics, despite Donald Trump pressing them on disputed claims of white genocide in South Africa. Now, keep in mind, the U.S. is South Africa's second largest trading partner, and a tense relationship between their president and ours would have worrying implications for the South African economy. But there were some mesmerizing moments today in this meeting. Now, Donald Trump just completely blew up at a reporter. Why? Anytime a reporter challenges Donald Trump, this is exactly what Donald Trump does. He blows up at the reporter. And again, this is par for the course when it comes to Donald Trump. And before I play this audio, I do want to introduce my co-host today, because I certainly want him to weigh in on these audio clips that I'm going to be playing. Of course, I'm talking about Leonard Cardinale, who is a longtime police officer and lieutenant in North Las Vegas, retired now, and Leonard's a good friend, and we always appreciate it when Leonard joins us on the program, and I don't want to make him wait any longer and just watch me yap. So, Leonard, good to see you as always, my friend. How are you?
How you doing, Brian? Great job with Ron, really bringing out the issues to the front, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Of course. I always appreciate it when you're here, Leonard, and I need a co-host today. I'll explain to you why after the show. But anyway.
We're not going to do redneck voices like we did last week,
people like it when I do the redneck voice.
It was kind of funny.
I don't have the energy to do it today for a couple of different reasons. I will tell you off the air. But on the air, as I mentioned, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa, and this is a mesmerizing moment Leonard, because it goes to show you anytime a journalist asks a question that could hold the president to account, he always attacks. And in this case, the reporter asks about, again, this $400 million Qatar plane. And listen to this interaction. And now not only does he not answer it, but he completely attacks the reporter. Have a listen to this.
Okay. It would be accepting Qatari jets to use as Air Force One.
What are you talking about? You know, you got to get out of here. What does this have to do with the Qatari jet? They're giving the United States Air Force a jet, okay? And it's a great thing. We're talking about a lot of other things. It's NBC trying to get off the subject of what you just saw. You are a real, you're a terrible reporter. Number one, you don't have what it takes to be a reporter. You're not smart enough. But for you to go into a subject about a jet that was given to the United States Air Force, which is a very nice thing. They also gave $5.1 trillion worth of investment in addition to the jet. Go back. You ought to go back to your studio at NBC because Brian Roberts and the people that run that place, they ought to be investigated. They are so terrible the way you run that network, and you're a disgrace. No more questions from you. Go ahead.
Yeah. You notice how he doesn't answer the question, and he always gets immediately defensive. Doesn't talk about this supposed $400 million gift that they were just nice enough to give to Donald Trump. Doesn't answer the question, attacks the reporter, attacks the network, anybody who questions him on anything, Leonard.
You know, it when I was watching it in real time, I immediately thought that Trump tries to bring out a lot of non-significant or semi-significant issues to deflect from what's really going on. And my impression of the reporter was, I'm here to be a reporter. And yes, I know you have this little thing going on with South Africa, but I want to ask you about what was just announced. And I want to ask you about what's really important. And I'm not going to sit here and let you hide the ball while we talk about crosses that were not grave sites and lines of cars that went to go see, was part of a car club or something like that. And so in my impression is, and the reason he gets defensive is, in his mind, for some reason, you should ask the questions, that softball questions that he most likely is going to answer. He felt bad because he got ambushed, but he ambushed the president of South Africa with a video presentation and printouts, which some of them were accurate. But in the reporting on CNN, they said of the 30 murders from April 2024 to December 2024, only 7 of them were actually white people. And so, and I don't think any of them, I know there was an attack on a farm by the workers that killed some people, but I think that letting 35 people into the country under this refugee program, when you have a president in front of you who's trying to talk about trade and increasing America's presence in South Africa, China's going to take they're going to take all of Africa. China's already working for all the minerals, all the gold, all the diamonds. They're already helping them out. And by the way, I'd like to mention that China dropped food on Gaza, and when Israel tried to intimidate them, China said, we'll end you. China stood up to them because they don't play games and there's no lying. And so I think the dynamic is that a dictator's trying to be a dictator in a country that doesn't accept dictators. Even his own party won't vote for his big, beautiful bill.
You know what I noticed, Leonard, is that when people are really defensive, they have something to hide. Example, notice when somebody claims that Donald Trump is racist, by the way, I do believe he's racist, he gets very upset and he says, I'm the least racist person you've ever met. And anybody that gives you like extreme defensive backlash, it usually means they have something to hide. Every single time a reporter asked him a question that is not only a valid question, but maybe could hold him to any sort of accountability at all, not an ass-kissing question, he gets defensive, he gets angry, usually doesn't address the actual question that is asked.
Can I give you a quote? And I don't know who created, so I'm sorry. But he quoted people as saying, every accusation is an admission.
Right.
Think about that. Isn't that exactly, every accusation is an admission that you're the fake media, you're the fake news. How much news was put out this morning that was inaccurate?
You're right.
tons of it.
You're right.
It was fact checked almost in real time. I got to give CNN kudos because they fact checked it almost in real time, and then they put on a gentleman from Kenya who has been covering South Africa for, I think he said 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And he set the record straight on everything.
Yeah. So again, he's very defensive when it comes to being asked about this $400 million jet gift. By the way, I believe he's going to take it home with him. I really, truly believe that. I don't think he's ever going to be in that plane as president of the United States. That's my personal opinion, and I'm going to stick with it. Then, of course, Donald Trump thinks that there's genocide going on. And he's talked about this time and time again in South Africa, and he pointed to a video that they played, and the video is showing a field with all these crosses. By the way, that's not a gravesite. It's not a gravesite. So it's a complete conspiracy theory. It's already been debunked. He literally showed a video to the president of South Africa, and the president's like, well, what is this? This isn't a gravesite. It's been proven it's not a gravesite. It's an area where some people lost their lives, but there's nobody buried there, and it's not genocide, and it's not a gravesite. So this is the moment where Donald Trump is going after this reporter again, and he's talking about this alleged genocide, which, by the way, didn't happen. Have a listen to this.
What would you like President Ramaphosa to do about the situation that we've just seen on the screen?
I don't know. Look, these are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know.
But you know that
To pick anyone, white South Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all, I mean, I'll give these to you. So when you say, what would I like to do? I don't know what to do. Look at this. White South African couple say that they were attacked violently. And,
President Trump, when will you go and see for yourself if it is indeed true?
well, I could do that. Look, here's burial sites all over the place. These are all white farmers that have been.
No, they're not.
buried.
Why?
He asks about a jet that was given. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You know, you are so bad. You're such a bad reporter.
No, he's just a bad president, and he's such a bad person, and he's a very bad liar, too, if there's any such thing of that. And here's the moment. This is another very interesting moment, Leonard, in that this is the South African president who almost is poking the bear a little bit and makes a joke in a weird, sly way, which I thought was kind of funny. Well, I'll just play the audio here, but it's about the plane, the gift. Have a listen to this.
That idiot talks about after viewing a thing where thousands of people are dead.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you.
I wish you did. I would take it. If your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So that was in a way, a little bit of a cheap shot where the South African president is almost mocking Donald Trump for accepting this $400 million gift. And again, Donald Trump going after the reporter, Leonard. And then another very important part of this press conference, whatever you'd like to call it.
Ambush?
Yeah, well, a reporter asked Donald Trump, explain why you're allowing white Africans here when other refugees have had all their protective status revoked, in a nice way of saying they haven't had due process, but yet you're allowing these white Africans in. Listen to this exchange.
Any questions?
Mr. President, we've got white Afrikaner refugees here. Can you explain to Americans why it's appropriate to welcome white Afrikaners here when other refugees like Afghans, Venezuelans, Haitians have all had their protected status revoked?
Well, this is a group, NBC, that is truly fake news. They ask a lot of questions in a very pointed way. They're not questions, they're statements.
Yeah, that's not a pointed question, right? That's not a fair question at all. We have a bunch of African refugees that are 100% white, and the Donald Trump administration treats them like royalty, but yet these refugees that are brown, they don't get any due process. Leonard, explain that to me.
I think it's fairly obvious. You know, we used to have this standard when we filed discrimination lawsuits, which I filed on behalf of my members as a union president in the past. And when you start looking at the real reasons for doing things, in other words, it's not business. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's refugees. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's genocide. It has nothing to do with the fact that they took away immigration status. It really appears to be just the color of your skin. And if you're white green light, white means green light. And if you're black, it's really not going to happen. And as I said last time, 87% of the land in South Africa is owned by the white over the last several generations, 2 or 3, a generation or so. And the black community only owns about 4% of the private land. And so listen to this. The population of the white people, according to the internet, is 7%. And they own 87% or so of the land. I mean, doesn't that just scream, I know apartheid had a lot to do with it, and I understand how that came about historically.
Yeah.
But the fact is they were trying to level the playing field. They're trying to make it fair. They're trying to say, you're not doing anything with the land. You need to let us have some interest in our own land.
Yeah. It's just insane, the hypocrisy and the way they treat Americans. If you beat a police officer on Jan 6th, you're some sort of patriot. Trump called you a hostage. But if you key a Tesla,
well,
you deserve 20 years
I think
in jail.
it was the Department of Justice. They just canceled major investigations against large police departments. They're just canceled. They're done.
Yeah, it's
and
insane.
They're thinking about pardoning people like Chauvin and some of the other police who were, accused and convicted of things like murder. So as a former police officer, I would say that they're opening the door. There's a dog whistle there.
No question. I do want to go to the YouTube super chat, if I may, and then we will open up the phone lines at 702-221-7283. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Thank you, Shelley, for your donation, who says, was a planned ambush the presence of the South African president? How can you speak of a genocide in South Africa to a black president in South Africa? Well, Shelley, that's a really, really good point that she makes. And again, Donald Trump has a history of treating white people different than black people. Brian, thank you for your donation. Like the name, by the way, says, what do you think about Cory Booker voting for Jared Kushner's father and Bernie Sanders going to Andrew Schultz's podcast? Well, I don't have a lot of opinion on the podcast, but I will say Jared Kushner's father has no business anywhere near government. He's a criminal. And quite frankly, the Kushner family, along with the Trump family, are a bunch of criminals. So anybody who would vote for anybody like that in any way, shape, or form, I lose a lot of respect for. The weirdo says, can you wish a happy birthday to my grandpa? He's 78 and was born 8/6/47. Keep up the good work, Brian. You're damn right. The weirdo's grandpa. I don't know your name, or I would say it, but happy 78th birthday. I hope I make it that long. The way I'm going, I'm not sure if I will, but anyway, thank you, Alex. He openly spewed white genocide BS. I agree with you, Alex. And the YouTube super chat is open. Your questions and comments will be heard, along with my website at pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live, where you can make donations, monthly donations, and you can buy merchandise on there. Leonard Cardinale is a retired NLPD lieutenant and the former president of the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 443, joining me as co-host today. Number to call is 702-221-7283. Again, we're going to take phone calls right now, 702-221.
Don't wait to call. The phone lines are filling up fast.
They do. And this portion of the program is brought to you by Jackson's Bar and Grill, the official gaming bar of the PTL radio show. Again, Flamingo and Jones, home of the ribeye steak, $20, and they haven't raised the price in 8 years. Great gaming promotions there as well. So please check them out. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. We are going to get right to the phone calls at 702-221-7283. All right, Numchuck, who are we going to first here? Let's go to Kava. Kava is first up on PTL. Hi, Kava.
Hi, Brian. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, good. What's on your mind today?
So I want to address something that you were just talking about with Donald Trump and getting rid of immigrants. So recently I saw that 11 people from my home country were just recently deported from America because of Donald Trump's administration. But like you said, why is he allowing white South Africans to come here, but he's getting rid of everybody else? Like, let that sink in for a minute. Why would a man like him decide, why should I keep them here, but everybody else isn't? Let that sink in. There's a real reason. We all know why that is.
Could be as simple as votes. Because if you get rid of enough of the immigrants and you get rid of enough of the people that never vote for you, those groups of people, and you bring in the groups of people that will vote for you, it could be that simple.
Yeah, it very well could, Kava, and we appreciate your phone call. Good to hear from you, Kava. Thank you very much. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's see here. Why don't we go to Ian? Ian is next up on PTL. Hello, Ian.
Hey, Brian. It's Ian Field. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Ian?
Good. So I'm pretty much sober, but I had to take 4 shots of vodka today after seeing Trump talk to the president of South Africa. It was very disturbing to me. Trump wouldn't look him in the eye, and he kept looking down to his left. Trump was looking down to his left, which is kind of a sign of someone that's not being honest, is looking down to your left. And you got Stephen Miller standing behind him, behind the couch, with this weird, creepy look on his face. And you got all these Republicans with their red ties sitting there. And I just got really disturbed. I had to take 4 shots of vodka with my dog just to relax. But I was disturbed.
So, Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, because I might have you confused with somebody else. But
yeah, that's me. That's me. Yeah.
You've
the guy with the long email.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. Okay, so Ian, thank you for that email, by the way. So, Ian, why is it that news outlets on the right in this country will not call a spade a spade? Now, obviously, I agree with what you just said. I thought it was very embarrassing for our president and filled with conspiracy theories and attacks on members of the media. What is this South African president thinking in his head? You know, what is he thinking about our president? It's embarrassing.
Yeah. I think the South African president was trying to be political and nice and not, burn bridges. At the same time, I could see his frustration in these lies. So he was trying to be like, okay, what you're saying is not factual, and we can talk in private later. But I don't want to argue with you right now with a bunch of these fascists in front of me. So he's trying to be political, which I totally understand, because you want to burn your bridges. But it was just embarrassing to me, and I had to go to the vodka with my dog. And Jesus, I'm just so disturbed by the fake. Trump is pulling out pieces of paper, which is probably some right-wing stuff on paper of these fake things, when very few white South Africans have been killed. It's actually like 30 or 40,000 black South Africans, or black, people in Africa, in South Africa, when probably maybe 30 to 50 to 60 white Afrikaners have been killed in the last year. So this is all propaganda, and it's just disturbing.
Yeah, it is disturbing, Ian, and it's good to hear from you, and I appreciate the call. Every single time Donald Trump meets with a world leader, it's usually disturbing. And apparently, Donald Trump met, or at least spoke with, Vladimir Putin the other day, and as far as I know, Putin, once again, no concessions offered. It was another embarrassment where Donald Trump is being played. Again, every single time, for the most part, Donald Trump meets with a world leader. It could be Zelensky, unless it's somebody like a Benjamin Netanyahu, who, again, wears the Donald Trump knee pads. It seems every single time we are the ones that are embarrassed because Donald Trump is the president of the United States, and he constantly looks weak, and he looks like a child like he did today.
Well, the question of being whether or not Putin was tapping him along, I think, has been answered. But don't you think it would have been better for the country? And I kind of wanted to say this to Ian, but for America, don't you think it would have been better if they stuck to the plan and they talked about business and trade? And he was bragging, the president of South Africa was bragging about how many 600 businesses are actually in South Africa.
Sure.
22 businesses in America. Let's increase that. Let's be more productive. And he mentioned rare earth metals and metals that they need, which are in South Africa. So he was going in the right direction. He's trying to do what's best for America and to increase the business dealings together. And then, and then Trump with the ambush and the guys shooting the guns and the threats, which I think was the president said it was a separate group, and he's not aware of that being part of anything that happened in South Africa. And he was polite and said, "I'll look into it."
Yeah, it's just
that's all you can do when you're ambushed.
Right.
You can say, all right, I'm not familiar with who that is, but I'll look into it.
Complete ambush. I agree with you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Dave. Dave is next up on PTL. Hey, Dave, what's going on?
Hey, Brian, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
So, hey, by the way, I like your commercial. I donated yesterday about the commercial, about the pizza commercial. I like that commercial a lot.
Well, thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, doesn't he remind you of Goldie Hawn from the movie Protocol in 1984? Remember that?
I do.
She wasn't smart. Remember, she wasn't smart, and she went all over, and
it's
she
an
was
old movie.
Dumb.
By the way, I was 4 years old.
Person,
I was 4 years old at that time when that movie came out, but I have seen that movie, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So my point, what I wanted to make, and I think you need to sit back and hold on to something, because I think he's going to sign off on this food stamp. He's going to also probably sign off on the Medicaid and cut billions of dollars and everything else. And you know what's going to happen? This is what's going to happen. Even if we try to take the House and the Senate, and we try to overturn the Medicaid and try to put more money in Medicaid and also try to put more money in food stamps, he's going to be the last person that's not going to sign off on it. So the only way that we can put money in the Medicaid, and also for Medicaid and also for food stamps, is that we have to take over. We have to take the House, which is the Democrats, and we have to have control of the House and the Senate, all three of them, at the end of his term, because this is going to be a 3.5 year long haul when people can't get food stamps.
Can I ask you about
Medicaid
that?
Is going to be cut for 3.5 years.
You
Can
and Leonard.
Imagine that.
I want to ask you about that, food stamps, and I want to ask you and Leonard, so hang on the phone here, Dave. So I had an idiot call into this show yesterday. It happens from time to time. They're called MAGA supporters. And a MAGA supporter called into the show and said, this is going to be great for those people in the long run. And I said, can you please define to me how millions of people in this country that cannot afford food, that can't put food on the table, and their EBT benefits, which is free, basically, a certain allocated amount of funds to put food on the table, will be gone. And he's like, well, that's not good. Then I said, you're making my point for me, you dope. Donald Trump is making the case, when asked about it yesterday, that somehow cutting food benefits will be cheaper for these people and it'll benefit them long term. And I'm saying, well, cheaper doesn't make it better. You're giving them food so they don't have to pay for food, at least enough to put food on the table for their family. That's what drives me crazy about this.
Well, it's the oldest trick in the book.
Yeah.
Blaming the poor for the rich not being rich enough. And it's been working for centuries. And if they cut, my dad is on Medicaid.
Right.
My dad
right.
it had to, you can only make a certain amount of money from Social Security, or you can't have investments, you can't have property, you can't have any fallback. You have to rely completely on Medicaid.
Yes.
And then now they're having this work requirement, and they're saying if you're able-bodied and you can work, that you won't be able to get the Medicaid, but you've already been confirmed by Medicaid as being disabled.
Right. But Leonard,
Leonard, big kicker on something.
Dave and Leonard, first of all,
yeah.
How can anybody make the argument that this is better for people that are on food stamps because you're just going to take it away? You know what? Let's assume for a minute, by the way, I don't agree with Trump, but let's just assume prices are going to go way down. Let's just assume by the way, I don't think that's going to happen. But even if let's just say prices were cut in half. Let's just assume that for argument's sake. And it happens in a year or two from now. What the hell are these people going to do right now? That's what I mean go ahead.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I wanted to make a point because, like I said, the point what I wanted to say is that if these people that can't afford food and you taking away their food stamps and you're cutting food stamps, how in the hell are they going to afford food if they can't buy food?
Thank
in
you.
The first place?
That's my point.
It doesn't make sense.
That's my point. I agree with you, but
yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want you guys to understand, and I want the people out there to understand, is that there's going to be people that he signs this off for the next 3.5 years. People are going to be hurting for the next 3.5 years until we take the control of the House and the Senate and the presidency with the Democrats to basically put this food stamps and this Medicaid back together where it was.
In fact, Dave, let me, I don't mean to interrupt you,
Amen,
but
brother.
That's what the holdup is on the big beautiful bill.
Yeah.
Because the conservative Republicans and the moderate Republicans don't want it to pass, because if they mess with that Medicaid and that SNAP program, they're pretty sure that they're not going to get reelected.
Saying that's
the whole point.
Leonard, saying that this is a big, beautiful bill is like a woman saying that Donald Trump has a big, beautiful body.
Did you watch Stephen Colbert last night?
Yeah, I did.
When he said that a big, beautiful bill would be more like somebody at a strip show where the man comes out and they introduce him as Big Beautiful Bill.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be like Stormy Daniels saying, I had Big Beautiful Donnie on me for 14 seconds. It's just so absurd.
Was it 14?
13, maybe 13. I'm giving him an extra second. I'm giving him a little bit of grace. Okay, let's say 13. That's probably more accurate.
Just by the way, looking down to the left was where J.D. Vance was sitting on the couch. Just so you know.
Oh, he's looking at his boy.
Just so you know.
Wait, was J.D. Vance sitting on a couch?
He was
today?
sitting on the couch.
Oh boy,
down to the left. He was directly to his left.
We got to look for stains on that couch. Ooh, that was a bad joke. 70222. By the way, I have some great moderators. Can I say that? We have some great moderators on Pushing the Limits, and I see we have some great ones on the TikTok and the YouTube chat. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Again, that's 702-221-SAVE. Let's go to Charles. Where are my MAGA supporters?
I don't know, but I was hoping somebody from South Africa might call in.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Set the record straight.
That'd be nice. Let's go to Charles. Charles, what's going on, man? Charles in charge.
Well, Brian, I'm bad news is I'm not calling from South Africa. I just want to let you know.
That's too bad.
And
that's okay.
I wanted to make a statement first and tell you, I hope everybody saw the GOP senators and the governors that were struck by tornadoes groveling for federal assistance after Republicans cut FEMA and the Atmospheric Association.
Yeah.
But my question for your guests is, please explain to me how the GOP has snookered law enforcement officers to back them when they're obviously not backing the blue no matter what they say.
Well, I'm not going to belabor the point, but when I was union president, I had sergeants and lieutenants, and about 80% of my membership was Republican. However, I was also a lobbyist, so I went to the legislature and I tried to protect collective bargaining and retirements and programs like Heart and Lung for police officers and firemen. And only the Democrats, listen to this, only the Democrats voted for what was important to us. Almost every one of the Republican senators and assemblymen in the state of Nevada voted against us. And then I would sit with my members and try to understand, look, this is our bread and butter. Your contract is that's where your money and your rights and your benefits come from. Yeah. And they would be like, well, what about that damn border? What about that? I'm like,
I can even go a step further.
But that is so not in your purview. That's so not affecting your life.
But Leonard, you're somebody that served as a police officer for decades. Let me tell you something here. I need a minute here. When MAGA Republicans talk about how they back the blue, they are full of crap. Why do I say that? Well, if an officer is attacked in any situation, I will call it out, but they only talk about it, for example, when it comes to Black Lives Matter. But you see, if a police officer is attacked on January 6th, Donald Trump will call the people who attacked those officers and beat them up with their own batons as hostages and patriots, and he will pardon them. It's only back the blue when it's convenient for them. Donald Trump went to a wake of a fallen officer, terrible story, who lost his life, brutalized, and it was a brutal story caught on video in New York City. It happened under Joe Biden. Now, listen, I don't care what president it happens under. It's horrific, it's terrible, and most police officers like Leonard are good people, they're heroes. Yeah, there are some bad apples in there, sure, but for the most part, of course I support police officers. But you see, there were officers that were fallen, sadly, under the Trump administration as well. Did he go to any of those wakes? I'll give you another example. Donald Trump says he backs those brave men and women in uniform, right? He always talks about that, even though he dodged the military. He said he didn't respect John McCain because he was captures the suckers and losers statement. However, Donald Trump didn't go to any funerals of fallen soldiers under the Trump administration, but only under the Biden administration. In fact, you had 4 fallen soldiers, their bodies being sent back here last month. Donald Trump chose to not go to that event. What was he doing? What was on his schedule? Was he meeting with a world leader?
Well,
I'll tell you what
he
did.
wanted to blame Biden.
But I'll tell you what he did on that day, Leonard. He was hanging out at Doral Golf Course in Florida. Why? The Live Golf Tournament was there. Donald Trump is in bed with the Saudis, just like Jared Kushner. They were paying him to play on his golf course. He mingled with members of the Saudi government, who, by the way, support terrorism, and groups like Hamas. And he decided to do that instead of honoring these 4 soldiers. But what will MAGA Republicans do? They'll blame Joe Biden and be upset for a half a second when Joe Biden looks at his watch. But you see, when things happen under Donald Trump not only does not take accountability for it, but he doesn't do the same things that he would do when it was under Joe Biden. For example, if an undocumented immigrant commits a horrible crime and somebody loses their life, Donald Trump will talk about it till high heaven if it happened under Joe Biden. But those same sorts of crimes did happen under Donald Trump. Does he invite members of those families or those victims to the Republican National Convention or to when he speaks at the State of the Union? No, of course not. Because Donald Trump, number one, doesn't have any empathy. And number two, he only does things if it's politically convenient for him to attack the other side. And when bad things happen under the Trump administration, he only blames the other side.
Can I ask a quick question before we move on?
Yeah.
It's kind of rhetorical in nature, but how do you suppose the Republicans got the greater majority of police officers to vote against their own best self-interest? That has been something that I've been trying to answer for years.
That's an enigma. That's something that's very difficult for me to understand. My father was a career law enforcement person. I have to guess, and don't agree with me because I know you have a lot of constituents, but I think there's some racial undertones there that sway people's political views. And finally, I want to let you know, Leonard, I never let anybody go by who served. So thank you for your service, and I'm saluting you, buddy.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that call. And by the way, I think it's very important to do that. When I have the opportunity, and I was at the EDC festival over the weekend. Don't even ask me why I was there. Okay, I was dragged into it, but I was there.
I know why.
Yeah, there's several reasons. One of the reasons you're probably correct on, but the other reasons maybe you're not aware of. But I saw a lot of law enforcement there. Of course, it's the EDC festival. They want to make. I shook some hands. Thank you guys for what you do, and I could see in most situations they appreciate that. When you go up to an officer and you shake their hand, I just want to thank you for what you do. I'm friends with Kevin McMahill, who's the sheriff here in Vegas. I think he's a great guy. I think he's great at what he's doing, and I think it's important to do that. It's also my responsibility to call out bad policing. And when I see a story that makes national news, I talk about it. Sadly, sometimes good policing isn't spoken about enough. I need to do a better job of that. But if there's bad policing, like the Derek Chauvins, by the way, that wasn't just bad policing. He ended the life of George Floyd. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. The moderators are doing a very good job today.
Well, the phone lines are packed.
Well, they always are. It's you, Leonard. It's your lavish good looks. That's what it is.
No, it's every day.
Your wife told me that. That's what your wife told me.
Yeah, she's
702.
No cookies today.
No cookies for me today. Damn it.
We were in Arizona.
Can I find a woman?
Can I give a shout out to my son?
Of course you can.
So we went down to Arizona last week for a few days. He graduated from ASU, from their business school, WP Carey, I believe it is.
Yep.
With a master's in business and finance, and we were all very proud. Went down there, celebrated, went out to dinner, and I'm very proud of him.
Congratulations to your son. You're a good father, so that does not surprise me. I need to go to school and major in how to deal with women. I need a major in that. Right now, I don't even have a GED.
Okay, so since the beginning of time, including cavemen and troglodytes, I'll include them. No one has figured that out yet. And I tried to guide. I have three sons. I'm 45 years old. I tried to guide them the best I can when it comes to the female race and to women, and I did the best I could. But I was always honest with them and said, "Look, I have not figured out what to do." So, but my wife, she's wonderful. She hangs in there, and she's great. She's a great mom, great wife, and I love her.
Yeah. Somebody on social media says you choose ladies for the wrong reasons. I don't know. I don't think that's true. 702-221.
Well, that's subjective.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Debbie. Debbie is next up on PTL. Hey, Debbie, what's going on? I just chose a lady to call into the show. Not for the wrong reasons. Not for the wrong reasons. Hi, Debbie.
We don't know Debbie, I don't think.
Thank you, Brian. I have a couple of things really quick, but first I just want to say that our whole family, there's a huge family here in California, and all of our friends, coworkers, or whatever, we always go to either you or Midas Touch for our news.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. The guys at Midas are great, and we have them on the show all the time. We had Ron on today from Midas Touch. He's great.
We love you.
Yep.
We love you. My husband says all the time when we question anything, he'll say, let's see what Brian says about it. And everybody knows you as a household name.
Oh, well, that's cool.
So,
wait, when you said everybody, what are you talking about? Just people in your family or?
People in the family, the neighbors here, coworkers, friends of the family.
Wow.
Everybody knows Brian. It's almost like you're a part of the family.
I literally am a household name in the houses. That's interesting. I like that. That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
We just love you. So
you're boosting my ego. You're boosting my huge ego. Thank you very much. I'm the best. Listen, everybody knows who I am.
People are saying
I'm a household name. Everybody knows who Brian Shapiro is.
A lot of people.
Listen, let me tell you something, okay? Let me tell you. I sound like a gangster version of Donald Trump, don't I? I sound like a mixture of Tony Soprano and Donald Trump.
His gangster accent came out today. If you notice,
really?
if you listen to it.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I'm a household name. I'm the best. Okay, listen, there's nobody better than me. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We have the best radio shows. We have the best callers.
Many people are saying, yes.
A lot of people are saying.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Household name, Brian. Go ahead.
Just a couple of things really quick. First of all, I was reading about how the CBS News CEO, she was basically ousted out because she didn't want to, get into the Trumpy thing with the station and whatever. Well, anyway, what we've noticed is that since she left for the past couple of days, when we've turned on CBS, but the local version of CBS, they're saying stuff like, overall, through our polls and whatever, the U.S. is very happy with Trump. The U.S. is very happy with the economy. The U.S. is very happy. So it seems to be that Trumpism is already bleeding in.
Well, that's why she resigned. She resigned because CBS agreed to change their policy to appease Trump, and she wasn't on board for that. I mean, even people that we love, like Bill Maher, I mean, I don't even recognize the guy. He does nothing but kind of compliment him, and I did a great job, and I interviewed him, and that's kind of a sellout. But she really had no choice because the policy and the programming was going to change.
Wait a second. I want to go back to me being a household name because this show's all about me.
Wait, let's talk about me.
Yeah, this show's all about me. Can you do me a favor? Like next time you go to a supermarket or in your area, where do you live, by the way?
In Los Angeles.
Oh, you're in LA. Can you do me a favor? Like next time you go into like a public space, like a supermarket, just do a census and just randomly go up to 10 people. Hey, do you know who Brian Shapiro is? And then give me an update. Just tell them I'm the biggest and I'm the best. Maybe I'm not the best, maybe the biggest, but maybe not the best.
Say, is that the guy in Las Vegas with the derby hat and the...
That's that guy Brian Shapiro, who's very big, but he's not the best. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Hey, what's our subscribers up to?
What are very big subscriptions, very big.
Bigger.
Only the best. Let me tell you.
Wait. If you were Trump, you'd be like 17 million.
I just passed. I have 111 billion subscribers now. So I did just pass 100. I'm being okay. I have to talk in my normal voice because I'm going to be factual, right? I passed 100,000 subscribers 2 weeks ago. I'm at 111,000 subs now on YouTube.
Right.
So
Yeah, right.
only the best. Make sure to tell them I'm the biggest because I have to be, but maybe not the best.
Well, he said Joe Biden had stage 9 cancer.
Well, that's what my ex-fiance once said. She said I'm the biggest, but not the best. So I think that's a backhanded compliment. Anyway, thank you for the call, my dear. I appreciate you. Immature
Thanks,
Brian.
Debbie.
Immature Brian. By the way, I do want to say this. Since you mentioned your son, which I think is great, I do have a friend of mine that's in the hospital. She's listening right now, and she knows that I'm talking about her, and she's been struggling a lot. I just spoke to her before the show. So if we could all wish her Cakes. Let's call her Cakes. Her nickname is Cakes.
I'm a Catholic and a Christian. We'll say a prayer for her.
Yes, please do. She's in the hospital right now, and let's all wish her the best if she's listening, which I believe she is. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. And no, I'm not talking about my ex-fiance. Let's go to let's see. Who do we go into? Let's let Numchuck decide now. No? All right. I have to make all the decisions. It's crazy.
Any MAGA callers? Anybody? No?
I don't think so. Let's go to Mark. They're afraid to call in. Mark.
I'll be nice. I know you won't, but I'll be nice.
No, that's not true. Sometimes I'm nice too. I had a MAGA caller call in for 20 minutes yesterday, and I thought I was pretty nice, and I shouldn't have been maybe. Mark, what's going on?
Good afternoon, Brian.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have two comments real quick. The first one is, did you notice when you played the tape of Trump talking about South Africans, and he made sure he stated where everyone heard very clearly, a white couple.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the photo that he showed?
White couple. Yeah. Mark is 100% correct. Yes.
Yeah, he made it known that it was white people that were assaulted and killed.
Mark, I'm glad you brought that up. This is very important. When Donald Trump talks about a victim, why would you mention the color of their skin, and why would you emphasize that? I'll tell you why. Besides the fact that he is a racist, he wants to emphasize it to his base.
It's a dog whistle.
We should care more about these people because it's, quote, a white couple.
There's one more thing I want to mention, but also remember the 5 black guys that need to be executed for Central Park?
Yes, the Central Park 5, yes.
The 5 black kids.
Donald Trump.
White couple.
So Mark, Donald Trump. Okay, hold on. I know. Let me just get to that, and then you take the floor here. So about the Central Park Five. Some people don't know this. Donald Trump took out a page.
Was it a full page or half page?
Full page out of the New York Times, which is not cheap, saying that they deserve to be executed. Then when it was proven that the DNA test showed that these Central Park Five members did not commit this crime and they were found innocent and they were let go and the charges were dropped after they had spent years in jail, did Donald Trump retract anything? No. Why is it that when white people commit a lynching like what took place with Ahmaud Arbery, Donald Trump won't take out a page out of the New York Times or even talk about that case? But if it's a couple that loses their life, which is just equally as horrible, he calls them a white couple and does a press conference about it. I find that very, very interesting.
I think it's obvious. They're not even trying to hide it. They're hiding in plain sight. They're saying it like it is. They're not afraid. People used to be a little soft when they spoke about racism or how it was
going.
How
about Ashley Babbitt, though? I know, Leonard, you and I have talked about this. Ashley Babbitt deserved what she got. It's very sad for her family, and it's very sad.
She got $5 million.
Okay? But why is it that our taxpayers go to pay a family of a daughter and wife that decided to break the law and got what she got because of her behavior that day? Why is it that Ashley Babbitt's family gets rewarded for that type of behavior? Can somebody please explain that one to me as well?
Well, they're trying to show they agree with her breaking in.
Yeah.
No, Brian, I can say why, because she's white.
Yep. There you go.
The last thing I want to mention is about the issue with, now this is a little off topic, the issue with Cory Booker. Can Leonard or Brian, what do you explain to me why Cory Booker voted to have an ambassador of Jared Kushner's father to France? I don't think any Democrat should ever vote along with anybody on the Trump MAGA side, but they don't get it.
They do not.
Still don't get it.
They don't.
Voting against their own best self-interest. And I believe that he might take a run at presidency. There's a pretty good chance that he will. He's kind of appealing. But after that move, I think my guess is he's trying to show that he's moving to the middle and signaling, much like the California governor, Gavin Newsom, going towards the middle, trying to clean up homelessness. And so, but I agree with you. I think in the long run, it's going to backfire because people are not going to forget that he did that.
I want to go back to the YouTube Super Chat. Thank you, Mark, for your phone call. We appreciate you. A bunch of people on the YouTube Super Chat that are very generous. I want to make sure their voices are heard. Thank you, Ottawa guy. He's Sean from Canada. Leonard and Brian. Forget Trump. He is a symptom. Who is worse for your country? Patel, Bondi, Rubio, RFK. You must pick one. Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. Peter, thank you for your donation. Says Leonard for governor. Come on, Leonard. I would absolutely.
That's 4.
I would absolutely vote for Leonard over
that's 5.
A tremendous amount, as Trump would say, a tremendous amount of other people. Immortal, with a very generous donation. Thank you, Immortal. Says Brian and Leonard for president and vice president. Well, wait, would 6. I be president or would Leonard be president? I need you to, Immortal, I need you to tell us. Thank you for your service, Leonard. Yes, of course. I don't know.
Well, I can tell you that I don't like to spend a lot of time on couches, so I don't know if that's going to factor in.
That's bad for J.D. Vance, but good for you. Lil Son says Trump supporters are the kind of people who would sell their car for gas money. Yes, Lil Son, I completely agree with you as well, 150%. Thank you guys for all of your donations. By the way, you could also go on my website, pushingthelimits.live, if you would like to buy some merchandise. We appreciate that. Kathy, thank you for your support. Says, Leonard, do you believe these ICE agents are actual agents or contracted by ICE Barbie? I've seen footage of some masks without badges, breaking into homes, etc., warrantless. It makes them suspect to me.
Well, they're both. So I did security before I became a police officer, and I thought they were relative and they were the same, but they're not. And every security guard would love, in their wildest dreams, to be given powers by the U.S. Marshal Service because they're just a security guard. They have no training. They have no formal, they don't know the laws. They don't know handcuffing procedures. And so what you're seeing is a mix. Yes, there is ICE enforcement and there are U.S. Marshals, but they also have been given power of posse comitatus, where they can go ahead and allow people to have the powers of a U.S. Marshal Service. And as you can see, a lot of them are just on television with a load-bearing vest and a gun and a pair of handcuffs, and it doesn't really say anything. It says, enforcement or security. And so, yes, they're allowing the average citizens to round these people up. And if you notice in some of the videos on social media, when they get a lot of pressure about who they are, whether they have authority, there's videos online where they just walk away.
Yeah.
Because they realize that they really don't have the authority and they don't have the training. They don't know how to handle people in difficult crowds. So I think that that's going to come to backfire on them. But you're correct. It's a lot of different types of people given that ICE authority.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to Brett. Brett is next up on PTL. What's up, Brett?
Hey, what's up, Brian, Leonard? How you guys doing?
Good.
I lost my train of thought. I forgot I was on hold, but
wait, you forgot you were on hold?
Yeah,
that's really losing your train of thought.
What are you doing over there? What do you? How could you forget you're on hold?
Right, like always, I'm cooking food. I'm a chef. I told you yesterday.
All right, I can be your sous chef. Fair enough.
Yeah, I stay busy. But I was just wondering. I live here in West Palm Beach, and I don't mean to change the subject, but how come I'm not hearing anything about this money that Sexy Boots and his wife stole?
Yeah.
From
well,
US
Brett, I was just
government?
gonna.
How come?
I was just gonna mention
go
that
ahead.
to you. First of all, how about those white sexy boots? I mean, Ronnie D, Big Ronnie D. Let's call him that. I'm sure that's what his wife calls him, right? With those white sexy boots. As far as the money scandal, I can tell you this. And for those of you that don't know what Brett is talking about, huge scandal where a lot of money was put into his wife's apparent governor campaign run. And it turned out that they lied to all the people out there in Florida, and they were taking funds from what I believe it was a medical fund and into their pocket, literally for her campaign. And then Ron and his wife lied about it, and they continue to lie about it. I think both of their political careers are over. I guess you never know,
You
right?
think so?
I keep
I don't
hearing these guys' their careers over, but through since 2016 with Trump, I thought his career as a politician was over multiple
Well,
times.
that's true. You can incite an insurrection, and you could still become the
worst
president.
case scenario, they'll end up in jail, and then they'll get pardoned because they're on the team of the bootlickers, and it's a good thing that his white boots are made of rubber.
Well, I don't think him and Trump are on the best terms, so I'm not sure that would happen.
I was just going to say, I wish he wore one with his wife because I don't want that man to procreate. But anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, one more question.
Brian?
I've always wondered. I've been a fan of the show probably over a year now.
Oh, I feel horrible for you.
Where did Nunchuck get his nickname from?
Nunchuck, take the microphone for once in your life. No, he's going to take the microphone.
So
by the way, let me just
he
say
once
that,
embarrassed Bruce Lee.
This is very rare.
Honored.
Nunchuck takes the microphone about once a year, and
you got to get your.
This is incredible. Okay, go ahead, Nunchuck. Nunchuck's got the microphone. Go ahead.
So it's
Tell
just
the story, Nunchuck.
so it's the host after Shapiro gave it to me the day that I started working here. It's just the first thing that popped in his mind.
It's a very interesting story. Thank you for enlightening
made up
us.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
So the real truth is
guarantee
he's
there's
too
more to
humble.
this.
Let me tell you what happened. He watched a video of Bruce Lee with the nunchucks, and then a lot of people were watching, and he outdid Bruce Lee with the nunchucks. And that he's too humble to say it, but that's where it really came from.
So I have a couple
He's
nicknames.
deadly.
I'm going to give out a couple nicknames. Brianna.
Yeah, that's the word on the street.
At times, I could be a very emotional person. An ex of mine
No.
used to call me that.
No.
And whenever I would get extremely emotional, she would say, "Oh, here comes Brianna." So that's one of my nicknames. B-Shap. Shap is another one. S-H-A-P. People do call me Shap. There's a lady who calls me Brian. I don't know why she calls me that, but Brian, B-Shap. On the
any nicknames.
On the Pierce Morgan show, they call me the liberal. So I don't. It's not factually accurate. I don't like that nickname. But anyway, those are just some of the nicknames.
I know, but how many times have you corrected them?
I've been called.
How many times have you laid out the whole explanation of the independent and what you believe? And
Plenty of times, but they don't. Jack Posobiec's an idiot. Another nickname I have is Chubb, but I'm not going to explain that one. We'll leave that one for another show. Thank you so much for the call.
Please.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, everybody.
This is not XM radio.
Yeah, exactly. Have a nice day. Get back to eating, cooking that food. I'm sure I really helped you with your appetite. 702-221-72. Sure. 83 is the number to call. I almost forgot the number there for a minute. Let's go to Julie. Julie's calling up next. Hey, Julie, what's going on?
Hey, I don't know if you got the email, but like I said yesterday, there's been a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah.
Whenever you look up Lisa.
Did we just lose her?
I think we lost her.
Did we just lose her? I'm sorry about that. That was accidental. That was all Numchuck's fault. I can't take responsibility for that. Please call back. We did not do that on purpose. I'm sorry.
Be careful. He's deadly.
I think it must have been the statement about Chubb that got her upset, and she must have hung up. 702-221-7283. Is she back? Oh, she's still on the line. And this is Julie, right? I'm sorry, Julie. Go ahead.
You didn't hear anything I said?
You got cut off.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
The email called me.
Yeah, I got that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The reason why I called in is because that one caller was talking about food stamps.
Yep.
Let me tell the idiots what it is. Basically, food stamps are not just given out to just anybody.
Yeah.
They are given to people with low income. You have to be within a certain bracket within low income.
And you have to complete mountains of paperwork.
Yeah, but according to Donald Trump, we should really believe him, because according to Donald Trump, this will help people on food stamps. Let's just cut it. That's like saying we're going to cut Medicaid, and then maybe in a year or two from now, you might have some better health care. Would anybody be okay with that?
There's a reason they're on food stamps.
Hey, guess what? What do you do for a living, Julie? Job or name me a job you've had in your life. It doesn't really matter what it is. What's the job?
Dollar General, the one I just quit.
Okay. So imagine if your boss came. Okay, so imagine if your boss came up to you and said, "Hey, listen, we're not going to pay you for a while. We're just going to stop paying you, but maybe in a year or two you might get a raise."
But
what
in
would
the long
you say
run,
to that?
in the long run, I'm bringing down costs,
Guys,
so you should be fine.
Guys, I am not exaggerating here. This is exactly what Donald Trump is saying and how stupid so many of his supporters are. That would be like a boss coming up to you saying, "We're not going to give you paychecks for a while." How long? Oh, I don't know. But there's a chance you might be making more money a year or two from now. Would anybody buy into that? I mean, maybe some Trump supporters.
No.
That's what he's doing with food stamps. That's what he's doing. He's saying, I'm going to take your food stamps away, and then maybe in a year or two from now, you might be okay.
And
That's
the
what
SNAP
he's saying.
program. The
That's what
SNAP
he's saying.
program is food for kids at school. And that's a lot of them. That's the only good meal they get all week long.
You know what?
They're underprivileged, and their parents don't have a lot of money for whatever reason. And the best meal they get is when they go to school. And the weekends are a struggle, and they want to just take that away so they can give tax breaks to billionaires.
That'd be like, we should tell Trump, we're going to take your orange makeup away, and then maybe in a year or two, Melania will give you a better shade of makeup. Thank you for the call, my dear. I appreciate your call. Thank you. Melania, hey, Donnie, we're going to conceive Barron, and then I might not sleep with you for the next 20 years. 702-22, by the way, that actually did happen. 702-221-7283 is the number to call, but we'll give you Stormy Daniels. Let's go to Ann. Ann is next up on PTL. Hey, Ann, what's going on?
Okay. You don't have a whole lot of women on, and that's fine. But so you were talking with Gloria Allred about women and not reporting sexual assault. And I had some personal experience that I thought might enlighten some of the men out there.
Okay.
When I was 14, my minister sexually assaulted me.
I'm so sorry to hear that, my dear.
Well, I've spent a lot of years working on that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It was the 70s, and I didn't think anybody would believe me. So the only people who knew were like my brother and my close friends. So fast forward to the Me Too movement. And I thought if I was ever going to say something, now would be the time. And so I tried to find some girls in my church who might have had a similar experience, and I couldn't find anybody. And then I sat down and I talked with my family. I have 4 children and 4 grandchildren. And ultimately, I decided that I wasn't going to say anything. And I had called the New York Times. I'd spoken to someone there. I'd given them my story. And ultimately, I felt like it would be too damaging to me and my family. And so when a man says, oh, well, why did you wait? That's the reason, because when we do come forward, then we, number one, are not believed, or we're called all sorts of horrible names.
There is a propensity in this country to turn the victims into not the suspect, but to turn them in, ruin their credibility, question what happened, and it's something that I mean, it's brave of you just to come on today and give your story and
yeah. Let me
that
tell you
helps.
something, and I'm going to echo what Leonard just said, without getting too much into detail. I know plenty of women, sadly, that have gone through what you've went through. One person in particular that at one point I was very close to, that went through some of the things that you went through, and it has affected her entire life.
Oh, yes.
Somebody that I go way back in my life to, that's very special to me. And it's affected everything.
I think that's the point.
Yeah.
They try to use violence to take a piece of your soul, and it basically changes you forever. And that's the power trip.
But you know what?
For them,
people get help. Some people decide they want to get help. Some people decide they don't want to get help. And let me be very clear, no matter who these people are, you know, my heart always goes out to them. They could be friends, they could be an ex, they could be anything in my life. My heart goes out to them, and it gets me so angry. You mentioned you mentioned Gloria Allred, who did my show. Was it yesterday? I think it was, or 2 days ago. And she came on this show talking about the Puff Daddy case, and she's made a living, you know, of helping women that are victims of assault. And sadly, I know from experience how this can affect somebody, and it affects everything. It could affect everything about somebody's life, and it never goes away. Right, ma'am?
No. I mean, honestly, because I had known him since I was 5 years old.
Oh, boy.
And and he groomed me, and now I recognize it now. My mom literally served me up on a platter to him, and she had no idea.
It sounds to me like you could probably benefit. I mean, I don't know you personally, because it sounds like you really want to talk it out. You really want to get it out, and that would probably require a good listener, like a professional, someone who's designed to listen to that.
Absolutely.
It's a lot.
Honestly,
it's a lot.
Well, let me tell you, my heart goes out to you. I will always be in your corner. I will always be in the corner of anybody who goes through, sadly, what you had to go through, and at such a young age, my dear. I appreciate you calling in. It's very brave of you to speak to this, and my heart goes out to all of you. I've dealt with people in my life. I shouldn't say dealt with. I've tried to help people in my life that have gone through what you've been through, and it's not an easy thing, and it never will be. So I appreciate you.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you. Let's go to Lori Ann. Lori Ann is next up on PTL. Hi, Lori Ann.
No, I think you meant Rayanne.
Oh, I'm just reading what's up there. Rayanne, I apologize. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. I'm sorry. My apologies. Go right ahead.
Love your show.
Thank you.
But I was just thinking about all the people that are getting cut off of Medicaid.
Yeah.
And it made me more aware of one of the things going on in Denver, Colorado, which is all the food banks. And the government is starting to cut money away from the different food banks around Denver. And I want to do a shout out to Kyle Clark on Channel 9, who has a call every week for people to donate to certain causes. And they have raised money in the thousands over the last few years to donate to the food banks around Colorado. So my heart goes out to all of them. In any way we can contribute to help the people that can't afford food, I support.
Absolutely. I do too, my dear. And I'm with you 150% on that. And I appreciate you so very, very much. Thank you so much for calling in. And anybody who takes the time to help somebody, whether it be a soup kitchen or donating food, donating clothes, there are so many, you know, I try to remind myself this. I'm very frustrated with a lot of people in this country. And with that frustration, I know that there's also a lot of wonderful people in this country, people that donate their time and their energy to really great causes. We need not forget that there's a lot of wonderful people in this country that are helping the needy and helping the poor and giving their time and their energy. And I try not to forget that. Unfortunately, when you have the Trump administration and all the horrible things that have come along with it, you get so angry and you get so frustrated and you get down and depressed and whatever other emotions you're going through. And sometimes you forget that you know,
it's hard to believe what they're doing. It's hard to believe how devastating their changes to the country have made, and it always seems to affect the poor and the people who are in poverty. And all you can do is what this lady did, what Rianne did, and go down to the food bank and do what you can do, give a bag of groceries.
Yeah, it's so important. I worked with the veteran organization that you're with, the Veterans in Politics organization, for a while. And, you know, I think it's important. I helped donate money to an officer who sadly got paralyzed from a shooting. And I remember that. Shane Nicolonis, I believe his name is, if I recall. And that was really hard. A young man in his early 20s, a police officer who was just doing his job that day. His whole life was ahead of him. Now he's paralyzed. It's important. It's important to reach out and do things in your community to help. But it's also important to recognize the dangers of the Trump administration, the oligarchy that it is, and the dictatorship that he is running. We can do both at the same time. It takes a lot up here to do it. And sometimes I struggle with that, but it's my job and it's what we do. And I appreciate your call, my dear. Thank you so much. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Sam. Sam is next up on PTL. Hey, Sam, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. I actually like this bill.
What's that?
I actually like this bill. Big, beautiful bill. I like it.
So are you a conservative Republican?
Yeah.
Well, how does a conservative Republican want to add $5 trillion and raise the debt ceiling? Because that's not conservative. That's prosperity. That's not conservatism. So are you a conservative Republican or a MAGA, or what do you identify as?
Yeah, I'm Republican. It doesn't matter MAGA I'm not or not. Well, and I don't care about the debt. I do see this as a big problem. Well, I think the Trump are doing the good job, got the Medicaid and all this stuff.
Did you ever take a class on economics or on business or macroeconomics?
Well, I did.
Microeconomics?
Well, I did. You know, I have pretty successful business right now, so I think I'm fine with the money.
Okay, so Sam, let's have a conversation. Are you happy with what Donald Trump has done here over the course of the first 3 months?
Yeah.
You are. Okay, so you're okay with
He's a MAGA. He's
so
not
hold on.
conservative.
Hold on. So are you okay with people not getting due process?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're okay with that. So we should be able to deport just anybody without any due process or their day in court. So, for example, if somebody wanted to deport you because they don't like your accent, and Donald Trump or somebody in his administration says, we don't like your accent or your skin color, goodbye, see you later, you'd be okay with that? Leaving your family and friends, you'd be okay with that?
Well, I'm a citizen. I have no problem with that.
Okay, that wasn't my question. I need you to listen to my question because you're not... Okay, please listen to my question. I didn't ask you if you were a citizen or not. I said if somebody came up to you from the Trump administration and didn't like your skin color or didn't like your accent and deported you to an El Salvador prison, would you be okay with that? Yes or no?
Yeah.
You would be okay. Okay, well, that makes you not a very serious person and you're an imbecile. Are you calling into this show to be an imbecile?
Well, that's showing
do you
no
want to
common
have
sense.
Do you want to have a serious conversation, sir, or not? Because this is not a good faith conversation. You just said you would be okay with somebody from the Trump administration going up to you and deporting you because they don't like your accent. You're either not a serious person and you're trying to troll, or you're not a very intelligent person. Which one is it, sir? It's one or the other. Be honest and tell me which one is it. Because if we're going to have a conversation, you are going to answer my questions honestly, or you can go fly a kite. Which one is it going to be?
Well, I'm honest with you.
Okay, all right. So you're being honest with me. So you mean to tell me that you're okay with the President of the United States and his administration, whether you're legal or not, going up to somebody because they don't like their skin color and deporting them to an El Salvador
and depriving
prison?
You of
and
your
you
rights.
want to tell me you're okay with that, sir? Yes or no?
Yeah, I vote for that.
All right, well, then you're an imbecile.
No
then
due
I think,
process.
okay, let me be very clear. You should be deported then because you are a disgrace, sir. No. You're going to hear me out. You are a disgraceful human being. You are an embarrassment to this country, and you are an embarrassment for people that sound like you and look like you, for you to call into the show and say that you are okay with being deported because of what you look like. Do you realize how stupid you sound?
He's not trying to have a serious conversation.
Here's what I think they should do, sir. Here's what I think you're wrong. And quite frankly, I don't care what you think anymore. Here's what I think Donald Trump should do. I think Donald Trump should put you on a plane, send you to Gaza with a brochure, and maybe a $10 gift certificate to McDonald's, and you're never allowed to come back. What do you think about that? Since you seem to be okay with the Trump administration deporting whoever they want with no due process, I think they should do it to you. What do you think about that? Do you have a family, sir? Do you have kids? Answer my question. Do you have kids, sir? Do you have a family? Why don't you answer my question?
More complicated.
Why don't? No, it's not more complicated. You're just an idiot. But why don't you tell me? Do you have any kids? Do you have a family?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so talk to me about your family. Do you have kids? How many kids?
One.
Okay, you have one child. How old is your kid, sir?
6.
Okay, so how do you think your 6-year-old would feel if their father was deported because of the color of your skin and you were never allowed to see your 6-year-old again? You'd be okay with that?
No.
Oh, you wouldn't? Okay, so you're okay with somebody going up to somebody and deporting them because of the color of their skin, whether they have kids or not. But since you have a kid, you wouldn't be okay with you being deported. Do you see something wrong with that, sir? Why is it you're not okay if it happens to you? The guy who was deported to an El Salvador prison, who's from Maryland, has 2 kids, you stupid son of a bitch. Do you not understand that?
Well, he was illegal.
No.
He's not trying to have a serious conversation.
No. You're not going to play that stupid game with me. First of all, that hasn't even been proven. Second of all, you just said whether somebody is legal or not. You are okay with Donald Trump, the president of the United States, deporting people, whether they're legal or not, because of their skin color and their accent. But you wouldn't want to get deported because you have a 6-year-old son. Do you realize what a hypocrisy moron you sound like?
Well, yeah, I do understand what she's doing, so don't see the problem with it.
You understand with what? I'm sorry, what did you just say? What did you just say?
I understand what Trump's doing.
Yeah. And what is he doing? And what is he doing? Tell me, what is he doing?
Well, he's deporting the people who came to the country.
No. Again, there's something called a non-violent criminal, you moron. There's something called a non-violent criminal. And also, there's a man who happens to be gay, irrelevant to the story, but he's a hairdresser who came to this country from Syria through a legal port of entry. He came in legally. They deported him to an El Salvador prison because he had 2 tattoos that says mom and dad. Are you okay with that, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, so what makes you okay with that?
Making no sense.
What makes you okay with that, sir? Tell me, a non-violent criminal who came to this country through a legal port of entry. Tell me what makes you okay with that.
Well, because from Latin America, country fight people. What do you understand?
I don't even understand what you're saying. You sound like such an imbecile, but I feel really bad for your 6-year-old son.
Can he self-deport? Can he call ICE?
Yeah. Can you self-deport?
Since you're okay with it.
Yeah. Sir, I think you should self-deport. They'll pay you like 10 grand or 1,000 or
Look
whatever.
Look up on Google and put in ICE phone number.
Yeah, why don't you self-deport and then you can buy the $5 million gold card.
He can report himself.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Do you realize what policies do you like? Besides your stupid immigration opinions, which, by the way, are absurd.
He's not a Republican.
Yeah, what do you like about Donald Trump? Yeah, why don't you get off your Obama phone and have a nice day? I can't even hear what you're saying, you stupid imbecile. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Zero. Zero is next up on the PTL radio show. Hello, Zero.
Hi, Brian. First-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you.
First, I just want to say I'm sorry you've had to deal with a bunch of these imbeciles a lot on your show, and I just hate it for you. I really do.
Well, don't hate it, my friend. They help pay the bills.
They're easy. They ain't nothing but a snack.
It's all good.
They're like a snack break.
It's all good, brother. Yeah. I don't mind it at all. In fact, I welcome it.
Yeah, I do have a question for you, though, but I'm afraid to ask because I don't want to sound foolish either.
That's okay. Go ahead and ask.
What are your thoughts and opinions on people who are politically neutral and don't really care for politics as a whole?
That's a really good question.
Then they have nothing to complain about after the fact.
So here's what I would say to that.
Okay.
If you don't vote, that's one thing. But if you don't have any opinions on anything, that's when I kind of struggle a little bit. You know, it's like if you don't have an opinion on people that are not getting due process, if you don't have an opinion on people that are going to get their food stamps taken away, or women that don't have the right to choose, and you don't have an opinion on abortion, and you don't have an opinion on taxes, and you don't have an opinion on, due process in the economy, if you don't have any opinions on any of that stuff, then I really don't want to hear from you.
Well, there's an old saying, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never been one of those people, sir. I've never been one of those people to say if you don't vote, you don't have the right to an opinion. Like I would never say that. But at the same time, how could anybody? I'll ask you this: how could anybody not have any opinions on what Donald Trump is doing right now?
I have absolutely no idea, but what I believe is he's not doing a good job, and I'm sure I'm going to get blasted by a bunch of Trump supporters in my hometown if they knew I was talking to you, but I don't really give a damn. I don't think...
Well, you should be proud to get blasted.
Why would they... Let me ask you this. I'm sorry you feel that way, sir, and I appreciate you calling in. Why do you feel that there are people in your community that wouldn't like the fact that you're calling into this show? Why do you think that is?
Well, because they're hardcore Trump supporters, and I've seen a lot of... I know you're going to believe it. Fuck Biden.
No swears. So let me ask you this then. Well, let me just tell you this. Can you do me a favor? For those people that you are talking about, and you sound like a really nice guy, and by the way, I do appreciate you calling in, and that was a really good question that you asked. I want you to do me a favor. For any of these people out there that have a problem with you calling in the show, tell them Brian Shapiro has a message for you. Tell them I all told them to go F themselves.
And call me.
Yeah. Tell them I all told them to go F themselves.
And give me a call.
And go move to Gaza.
Absolutely.
Can you tell them that for me, please?
I will certainly will if it comes to it. Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you, sir, and I do appreciate you calling in. You have a great day. You sound like a really nice guy. Yeah, they can all go F themselves. 702-221.
That's really interesting that he has to hide it from his friends in the community.
Yeah, bizarre.
That's crazy.
It's kind of like how the far-right evangelicals, some of them have to hide the fact that they're gay. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Who are we going to next year? Let's go to Terry. Terry's next on PTL. Hey, Terry, what's up?
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Good afternoon, Leonard.
Hey, Terry.
Hi. I've been focusing a little bit on what's going on with education around the country, and I have great concerns about what Ryan Walters is doing in Oklahoma, pushing Trumpism in the public school, changing social studies classes now that will include curriculum leaning toward the lie of the 2020 election being stolen. He also doesn't want the Oklahoma massacre to be taught if it includes any references at all to racism. He wants students to love the Constitution and be patriots. What version of the Constitution does he want? Probably Donald Trump's. Yeah. And apparently he's going to have Bibles in the classroom starting this fall.
Isn't that great? And, isn't that great? Your child, you're in the classroom, your child is going to be forced to look at the 10 Commandments, a Trump Bible.
They have to post the 10 Commandments, correct?
Yeah, a Trump Bible, and then maybe a picture of Donald Trump looking like Superman. I mean, this is what our children, and by the way, they say these teachers are the ones that are indoctrinating our kids. Are you kidding me?
They're trying to rewrite history. They're trying to take away the real history and rewrite it. And yes, they will not be mentioning the massacre because how could you not talk about that without it being about race?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I have a shout out to Darlene. Darlene, if you call in today, can you give us your best Darlene smackdown on Ryan Waters? Because I need a laugh today. I just need a laugh today.
Yeah, Ryan is an absolute complete imbecile, and I'm just embarrassed that he's out there in charge of anything. My goodness gracious, that guy Ryan is the kind of guy that could be in charge of 5 MAGA idiots that are protesting outside of a Target, and he probably wouldn't even.
He said we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to do right by people.
We're trying
to do right. There's only 10 commandments, but you got to follow them.
Listen, I want to use your tax dollars.
I'll tell you what.
I want to use your tax dollars to buy those damn Trump Bibles. You know, they're made $3 in China. We're going to buy them for $60, and we're going to make sure every single child has a Trump Bible to read. Thou shalt not steal. You know, the 10 Commandments, they'll shout no adultery, shall not cheat, right?
You got to watch them self-righteous people.
Oh, but wait a second. Donald Trump did that, but that's okay. We're going to read the 10 Commandments anyway. Don't steal, don't cheat, even though the guy that we support, we're reading his Bible.
He's one of those Christians.
Yeah, he's one of those. Yeah, exactly. Right-wing evangelical. We're going to make your child believe in Jesus Christ. And, even though our president breaks all the rules and is the biggest sinner of them all, that's okay. We're going to call ourselves hypocrites.
It's history, but it's not our history.
Yeah, it's really
but it really happened.
Is this really?
Well, it's your history. No, it's everyone's history.
Is this really happening with that one-hit wonder buffoon Lee Greenwood teaming up with Donald Trump to sell Bibles? Is this really happening in this country? Well, let's talk about, what about that Hunter Biden and that laptop? Hey, what about the fact that he was making $50,000 a year working from Burisma? Oh, wait, hold on. I got to get back into my mobile trailer because my dentist is calling. I got to get a fourth tooth. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. My goodness. Let's go to Kathy. Kathy is next up on PTL. What's going on, Kathy?
Hey, Brian, I wish that guy had done us a favor and flushed himself down the toilet. That would have been something.
He started with the toilet. That was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I just wanted to ask the MAGA nuts out there, do you understand that these cuts in Social Security and in Medicare, you're actually paying for this? This is being deducted from your paycheck?
Yeah.
Every pay period, this is money that's coming out of your pocket.
Yep.
And do you also realize that the people who benefit the most, according to the U.S. Census, are white people that benefit from social benefits? 75.6%.
By far, white population.
Why are you screwing yourselves over? It makes no sense.
Yep, they're voting against their own best self-interest, and I don't know how they get them to do that, but they do.
Yeah, Ashley, our tax dollars are going to pay Ashley Babbitt's family. Do you know how much that pisses me off? You know how disgusting that is to me?
So
Brian, I tell you.
The Secret Service had a barricade with chairs and wood, and they had a glass door, and right behind them was a chamber. So they literally had legislators in the chamber directly behind them, hiding on the floor, guns drawn, and enforcing the law and warning people, if you come through there, you'll be shot.
Yeah.
So any person in their right mind would not have done that. And if they did, they would expect to be shot, which is what happened next.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
well, let me
Let
me tell you something. I'm a staunch Trump supporter. And that Ashley Babbitt, she's a patriot. She's a hero. So I think we should donate all of our money. Don't use that money to pay
I would have
your
let her
bills.
go through the window if I were there.
Don't use your money to pay your bills. Don't use your money to save for your son's college education or your daughter's education. Save that money and give it all to pay for Donald Trump trading cards and those gold sneakers and those Trump Bibles. And
I just finished buying $5,000 worth.
Hey sir, what is that frame in your living room? It looks like cloth. What is that? Oh, well, I spent $1,800 to pay for an inch of Donald Trump's suit that he wore when he got.
Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay the rent this month.
Well,
and my wife's upset.
That's
but,
Joe. Well, who do you blame for that?
But
sir?
it was worth it.
Who do you blame for that, sir? Oh,
Joe Biden.
It's Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg. It's definitely the deep state. That's what I'm going to pay. These people are so stupid. Anyway, not you, my dear. Thank you for the call. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
702-221-7283. Let's go to Greg. Greg is next on PTL. Hey, Greg, what's going on?
I got about 3 quick points and one observation.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay, that's all right. Go ahead.
Okay, what do you call it? On that big bill, he said he was going to have no tax on tips, but it was But in the big bill, it's written as no tax on cash tips.
Yeah.
Like how many times do you pay? I pay with debit for everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Digital. So they're going to be paying tax on all those steps.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's a dream.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Okay, and then they said no tax on overtime. That's not in the big bill.
Also true.
And remember how Donald Trump said they're going to save so much money from Doge that they're going to send all those megas check for $2,000, if not more. Remember Donald Trump saying that?
He said he's going to save $1.5 trillion, but the majority of that, the greater majority, comes from Medicaid and from the SNAP program, which Brian was talking about recently, and things like food stamps. So he wants to raise a debt ceiling, and he wants to pay for it by, once again, what I usually say is, it's the oldest trick in the book. You're blaming the poor for the rich not being rich enough, and that's the transfer of power. That's not even Marxism. That's like just pure capitalism with no republic and no democracy involved. It's pure capitalism.
Right. And then I got one observation. The Canadians elected a prime minister who's got a bachelor's degree in economics from Harvard, a master's degree in economics from Oxford. The Mexican president's got a PhD in energy, and U.S. elected a felon and rapist. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Doesn't make sense to me either. But then again, if you're a 34 count felon and you walk into a fast food chain and you ask to get a job, they would ask you if you're a convicted felon. Donald Trump couldn't even get a job at McDonald's, but somehow he becomes the president of the United States.
Yeah. Well, that was my quick point, sir. And thanks for listening to me.
Well, I appreciate you.
And
Thank you for the call, sir.
Romania just elected a liberal president also.
Yeah, I just saw that. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Darlene. Darlene, the MAGA destroyer.
Let's
up
go.
there. What's up, Darlene?
Hey, Brian. Hey, Leonard. Leonard, nice to see you again, and thank you
Thanks,
for
darling.
your service.
Thank
we
you,
all
darling. I appreciate
appreciate you. Anyway, to the lady that called earlier, I totally agree with you. Ryan Walters is nothing but a pig. He's a Nazi titty baby to Donald Trump. That's what he is. And I don't know if you know it, but he also just recently said that he wants to run for governor of Oklahoma.
Do you, Darlene, do you believe he's a bootlicker?
I do.
With the knee pads or no knee pads?
Yep.
Wow. She is a MAGA destroyer.
She is the MAGA destroyer. Darlene, my girl, what do you have to say about a guy who calls into this show and the guy literally says that he's okay with Donald Trump deporting people on skin color or their accent?
No due process.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
That guy was a stupid idiot. I don't understand people. This is America that we are all living in. But unfortunately, all of us innocent people are the ones that are having to put up with it. And another thing, Brian, Leonard, does Donald Trump ever shut up? I mean, seriously.
He rambles and rambles.
He keeps talking, he's like me.
He was talking about water pressure the other day and submarines that go under the water and do special things. And
well, I can say this. According to Stormy Daniels, he was quiet for 13 seconds. I do appreciate the call. Thank you so much, my dear. 702-221-7283. Let's go to William. William's next on PTL. Hey, William. William has hung up. Okay, let's go to Linda. Linda's next on PTL. What's up, Linda? What's going on?
Hi. I'm calling from Canada. I have American friends, and it interests me how some of them hate Trump and some of them love him. And I ask them, what is it about this man that you love, right? And all I get from them is, oh, he's going to do a big change, and when he does, we're going to be getting lots of money. And I'm thinking, where are you going to be getting this money from, right? Because, like, the plane that he's getting right now, when he leaves in 3.5 years, he takes it with him.
Right.
Right? All the money that he's making right now in all these deals is for him and his family. So where are these people that love this man so much, that think that they're going to either make them rich or get them out of poverty? I just don't understand it, because how long are you going to wait, right?
Yeah.
They say they want to move all the industry from Canada and around the world to the States. It's going to take more than 3.5 years. If you use common sense, how long does it take for a company, especially a car company, to open up, build the building that they need, all the supplies that they need? What, it's going to take a year?
No, they
Maybe
said it could
6
take
months?
5 to 10 years on the average to get a
And he
real.
won't be around.
Well,
He will not be around, and in the meantime, what is everybody going to do?
well,
like, are you?
it seems
I
to
mean,
me like
he's
they're
getting real.
they're brainwashed.
Pardon?
It seems to me like the people are somehow brainwashed, because when you talk to them and it says, "Hey, you're not going to benefit," and a matter of fact, you're the one losing money. You're the middle class. You're the people who are losing money. I have friends. I have family members, and you know what they tell me? They say they're okay with it. So that makes no sense to me, because they're actually
It makes
losing
no
money and they're
sense.
okay with it.
I think they're either like they're trying to make it like they know, part of them knows that what this man is doing is wrong, and they don't want to admit it to the family and friends that this is going south.
Yeah.
right? This by no means is going to go north to Canada. If anybody that thinks that Canadians wants to be the 51st state is mindless, because our economy, our health, and everything that we have here, we love. We see the destruction over in the States, and like I said, I have friends over there that I love dearly, and I feel so sorry for you guys that don't believe in this madness.
We love Canada.
Right?
Well, I appreciate your comments, my dear, and I love my listeners in Canada. I saw some wild stat on YouTube that at least 20% of the people that watch my stuff on my YouTube page are from Canada, which is kind of wild. I've got about 10% from the UK. And the rest
because
from
they've
the United
caught
States.
so much negativity from the administration that they're like I said last time, people are reaching out to you because they listen to what people say about Canada and they can't believe what they're hearing.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
And they've been a great friend, and then they come on and listen to the
it's
show,
it's sickening.
and they get the real side.
Leonard, it's absolutely sickening. Let's go to the YouTube super chat real quickly. I have to thank the people that are helping me support what we do here at Pushing the Limits. I think we already had the Ottawa guy up. We're going to go to Henry Niuga, who says, as an American, can you give your opinion about Marco Rubio? I watched him on the hearings yesterday and today. Seems while he is not covering for the S-47, he has some brains. Yeah, but he's also, my friend, I appreciate your support. He also has no backbone, and he used to be very tough on Vladimir Putin and speak against Putin, but now he's taking the Donald Trump approach. It's insane. Reaver Lord, thank you for your support. Says it sickens me that they paid Ashley Babbitt's family $5 million, but MAGA Mike Johnson has refused to allow a plaque honoring the Capitol Police officers. Reaver, you're right, and I am absolutely disgusted by it as well. It's completely and utterly despicable and ridiculous. Lori says, Brian, can the officers that got hurt on January 6th, could they sue Ashley Babbitt's family? I'm not an attorney. I don't know if that's the case.
They would have to have a vested interest.
Yeah, I think that's a very slippery slope. Let's go to Chris on the YouTube Super Chat says, I am curious to know what psychologists and sociologists will say 20 years down the road about the MAGA movement. Well, I am as well, but you and I are on the right side of history. Let's at least call it that. Let's go to G. G is next up on PTL. Hi, G.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, good. What's on your mind?
Well, I have a lot in my mind. First, I'm an American, but I was born overseas. And so I grew up in a place where we saw everything, which is like a dictatorship, war, a lot of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved to this country, my dream was to provide for my daughter a safe future and a better life than the one that I had. But now it's turning into the same thing that I had to deal with when I was younger, which is a clear dictatorship that's on the rise.
Yeah.
Because first, it will start when, as I remember, it will start that whoever is in power, they ignore the Constitution. They don't care about the rules or the laws. They also do whatever they want, and no matter what people protest or do, they just keep doing what they are doing.
Yep.
And also, the one thing the dictators, they do, especially in the Middle East where I grew up, they create a lot of chaos, and they try to get people get busy with the chaotic situations they create, which is, like, let's say, for instance, we are seeing, which is the economy, which is the number one thing that Trump got elected for. And the other big issue is they create a lot of violence, which is, well, it will start with like the hate that's going on with everybody now.
Well, there is a lot of hate. I'm sorry, I got to cut it short because our show's ending, my dear.
Yeah, we're running out of time.
But feel free to call back again tomorrow. But I agree with your sentiment of what you're saying. This is a dictatorship and an oligarchy. Quickly, a programming note. We have a very staunch MAGA Republican and podcaster that's going to be joining us on the show to start the show tomorrow. It's going to be an all-out, duke it out debate tomorrow right off the bat. So my blood pressure will rise right from the beginning. Hopefully all of yours will too, but that'll be to start the show tomorrow. Leonard,
are they going to bring any facts, you think?
Probably not, but I will try to fact check them as best I can. Leonard, it's always good to have you here, my friend. I appreciate you for being here. It's always great. And I know the listeners, I was going to say the PTL listeners. A
lot of people.
Yeah, many people are saying. Many people are saying that Leonard does a great job every week when he comes in here, and Leonard, we'll do it again next week, my friend. And thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Leonard. Regards to your family, your wife for me, and congratulations on your son. That's wonderful news. I think in closing, I will say this again. I try to say this at the end of every show. Whether I have a bad day or a good day, a bad week or a good week, it's always a pleasure to be joining you guys every day in the PTL family, which continues to grow every single day. I'm very thankful to all of you. Check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. And of course, we will be back at it tomorrow, same time, same place with a MAGA supporting podcaster, popular right-wing podcaster who's going to be joining me to start the show. It's going to be to all it out, duke it out to start the show tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay safe, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard.